friends, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. This is a show by the people, for the people. It's a populist program, my friend, and we love it best when you jump right in and participate. So join our community. Let us know what you think. That's just the way that we like it. In today's program, the NFL will be introducing some interesting rules changes for the 2025 regular season. We've got a lot of Super 70 sports tweets sprinkled throughout the program like little Easter eggs for you to find. And the why not? Elite Eight is set. Airplane with a big upset last night to roll into the Elite Eight. And as we speak, beer and 80s MTV are dueling at Super 70 Sports on X. Get over there and vote, want you? But let's begin with Tim Tebow visiting the White House. That's right, Tim Tebow back into our consciousness, dropping by to say hello to President Donald Trump as part of his initiatives against child sexual trafficking. So no surprise that Tim Tebow is going to be involved in something good and noble and wholesome, finding time to pose for a photo with his wife, Demi Lee, and Marco Rubio, the Secretary of State there. They're doing the Florida Chomp in the Oval Office. It's cool for athletes to be back at the White House again, is I guess one of the things that we have learned in the first 2+ months of the second Trump administration. And man, I'll tell you, sometimes I feel a little bit old. Do you realize how long it's been now since Tebow Mania? The 1990s feel like they're about 3 weeks ago to me. Tebow Mania feels like it was the day before yesterday. And it's been close to 15 years now since that magical run that he had with the Denver Broncos. Remember when every week they were doing something to pull it out miraculously? It was Tim Tebow and God together for one magical run there in Denver. And now Tim Tebow has moved on to more important things than athletics. It's good to see that he's out there using his influence. This is the moment, I think, where I realized I ain't getting any younger. This is a couple of years ago, near the end of my teaching career. I had an entire classroom of college students. And again, I'm going to say this was probably 2023. Tim, you can look and see when this tweet is from and tell me. But it had to be 2022 or 2023. 24. All right, my last year. This is probably the thing that pushed me over the edge where I said, fuck it, and just retired. Not one kid in that classroom knew who Tim Tebow was. That's when you know you're getting old as a professor, as a teacher, period. When you make cultural references and you just watch it fly over everybody's head, and you realize I'm probably going to die of natural causes soon. A room full of college students who had never heard of Tim Tebow. Do you feel old yet? I do. But let's continue, shall we? It'll take me my mind off of my mortality. Speaking of athletes going to the White House, we heard that the Philadelphia Eagles are accepting the invitation, unlike 2018 when they won the Super Bowl and elected not to visit the White House with President Trump there. The 2024 Eagles will be going, and the Los Angeles Dodgers have plans to be there next Monday. While they're in the area to play the Nationals, they're gonna dip by the White House and visit the president and accept their accolades. So we're seeing some sense of normalcy restored as far as teams go. And here's one that's not necessarily normal. So many teams and athletes are going to the White House now. The 2020 Kansas City Chiefs are going to get in on it. That's right. I heard the Chiefs are going to the White House, and I said, hey, wait a minute. They lost the Super Bowl. What the fuck are we talking about here? Well, it turns out it's the 2020 Chiefs who missed out due to, yeah, that's right, the kids in the back of the classroom. Can you keep up with me here? That was COVID year. So it messed up everything for a lot of people, and the Chiefs did not have the opportunity to go and accept their flowers for winning whatever that was. I think that was Super Bowl 54, maybe. Keep me honest here, folks. They beat the San Francisco 49ers, and then about a month later, there you go. All right. Tim confirming for me that it was, in fact, 54. I went to a party there about a month ahead of COVID. Some little kid there, like a toddler, had a stomach virus. It went through everybody that was at that Super Bowl party. That was when I should have known that if 2020 was a day, I needed to just pull the covers up over my head because it was going to be a rough one. And it didn't get any easier from there. I got divorced that year too. You think your COVID year was bad? My COVID year was worse. Who wants to tell COVID stories of how rough life was? That's something we got in our basket, isn't it? For our grandchildren. Well, let me tell you how shitty my life was during the pandemic. Sit down for a minute, Junior. I got some stories to tell you. Kid Rock's going to have stories to tell his grandchildren. You ever would have thought that Kid Rock would be rocking this outfit in the White House? Take a look at this. It's not just athletes. It's entertainers as well. He looks like Evel Knievel's roadie. Look at this. Cowboy. The American badass. And Kid Rock's in that picture too. You see what I did there? Makes me think of when Elvis dropped by on Richard Nixon. Are you familiar with that story, my friends? In 1970, Elvis decided it would be a fine idea just to show up at the White House unannounced. Who does that? Well, the answer is Elvis. You reach a certain point of fame and celebrity, and social norms no longer apply to you like they do to regular people. I'm in the neighborhood. I think I'll drop by on Dick. Red, take me over to 1600 Pennsylvania. And he shows up, and if it's not weird enough that a probably drug-addled Elvis, I don't know, in 1970. Yeah, let's face it, he was on something. Brought Nixon a gun. It's very important to let me in. I got a Colt 45 for the president. There it is. Look at that. Presidential wisdom. A fine Super 70 Sports follower, by the way. A guy that I have enjoyed interacting with a lot over the past decade. Shout out to him here. Here is the mounted Colt 45 with bullets. Because if Elvis brings you a handgun, he's bringing you ammo too, motherfucker. And there it is. Look at that. A piece of history. It was a commemorative gun. You know, if you're going to show up at the White House unannounced, unless you're Elvis, I'm going to advise that you don't take a gun. You know what I mean? It's weird enough to show up. Can you bet what would happen to you or me? Hey, Biggie Cobb's here. I'm at the White House. I've got a Colt 45. How long would it take? How long would it take to be carted away and locked up for forever? But not if you're Elvis. Elvis was playing by a different set of rules. Ronnie, I'm going to go ahead and bring you in now. The international streaming star joins me from where? Ron, that's not the Batman building behind you. That looks, my God, you're in my town, Ron. You've invaded my town again. Didn't hear a word of that, Ron.
I'm back.
There you are. Okay, well, you son of a bitch. You got any plans this week? We should get together, Ron.
So, I don't really have much going on this week. I have some free time Friday morning. I was wondering if maybe you and I could go hang out at a bar in Wrigleyville.
What? Well, look, I'll do it, but only if Tim comes to Chicago.
Yeah,
that's my criteria.
I think that's fair.
What do you think, Tim? Are you going to be the holdup here, or is this a green light?
The tripod gets together. I'm in.
There it is. The tripod. Wow.
Consider it done.
Look at that. We sound like the worst faction in professional wrestling, according to Pro Wrestling Illustrated. The tripod. Did you enjoy the NWO? Well, meet the tripod. Ron, a little bit of sad news here. I want to, one of these stories that you don't want to cover, a lot like George Foreman, but you want to give the shout out and the honor to the guy. We lost Val Kilmer. I just tweeted it out late last night, the word coming through that Val Kilmer, who had battled cancer for a long time, passed away. We lost him at age 65, I believe it was. And I tweeted this out last night. Super Sky Point to Val Kilmer, an absolute 80s movie legend and 90s movie legend, too, for that matter. And the only man other than George Gervin who's earned the right to be called Iceman. Rest in peace, you courageous, sweet bastard, and tell St. Peter he can be your wingman. This is a shitty one, man. It's like I don't know anybody that didn't like Val Kilmer. You know what I mean? Anytime you were watching a movie and Val Kilmer turned up, you just knew that was a good sign.
Yeah, man. I know hindsight's 2020, but could you even try to picture anybody else playing Iceman in that movie? Like you try to
perfect.
You can't picture any other human being being Iceman. Had I had enough time, I would have frosted my tips in honor of Val, but I didn't find out till I got home.
You know what? Listen, why don't you frost the tips, and then on Friday, after we conduct business in Wrigleyville, we'll go out to the beachfront in front of Lake Michigan, and we'll just challenge some punks to some beach volleyball. Shirts off. Yep. We're going to go tits out, Ron. A lot of awkward high fives. Tim can shoot it for a montage that we can use later on the program. But, I remember just going to see Maverick, Ron, which, was a long in the making sequel, but was so good.
Longest ever.
But just seeing Val Kilmer in that, right? Yeah. Just the scene where you see him, it was just like, fuck yeah, Val Kilmer's in this. So that's a tough loss. He was so great again in Tombstone, and Real Genius was one of those 80s comedies that I think is kind of underrated, has fallen through the cracks for some people. Probably haven't seen it in a lot of years, but I remember enjoying him in Real Genius. He had the super high sideburns, like super, super high. And I remember I was like a freshman in high school, and I shaved my sideburns all high because I was trying to be like Val Kilmer. And as you can imagine, I didn't exactly pull it off, Ron.
Still undateable.
Yeah, I think it made me more undateable. In fact, Ron, look, Rafael Devers is going to be undateable if he doesn't start making contact with the baseball. Have you seen this? The Red Sox young star is mired in a historically terrible slump at the moment. Have a look at this start to the season. This tweet, I believe, is from yesterday. The Red Sox didn't play yesterday. So these are still accurate numbers. Devers, 0 for 19 this year with 15 strikeouts. But wait, it's even worse than that. Because if you look at his finish to the 2024 regular season, you can see in his last 4 games last year, he went 1 for 15 with 11 strikeouts. He is now 1 for his last 34 with 26 strikeouts. And Ron, it is in fact the most strikeouts in a 9-game span in the history of Major League Baseball for any hitter.
Yeah,
so how about that?
He peaked on September 20th, and then it was just all downhill after that.
Yeah, got a hit and drew a walk. He didn't know that was going to be the greatest game he would ever have again.
Yeah.
And he created a stink coming in, too. He didn't want to play third, remember. He was going to be a DH.
Well, he was insistent that he play third base. And they signed Alex Bregman from Houston. And they brought Bregman in, and there was some talk that Bregman would play second base and Devers would stay at third base. That didn't happen. Bregman is playing third base, which is what he's played his entire career, and Bregman has had an outstanding career. Obviously, he was a huge contributor in Houston on those championship teams. And now, what are you looking at here? You're looking at Devers as a DH, and I don't know if it's an attitude problem. I don't know if it's an adjusting to being a DH problem. But at some point in time, you got to start making contact, or you get the red bat that we were showing on the program earlier this week. I don't know, Ron.
How do you bust that slump? Like,
is it psychological, Ron? What do you do when you get in a cornhole slump? How do you bring yourself out of it?
I mean, I know you're trying to be funny, but it happens where, like, we were playing one night and my friends were cracking up at me. I just kept alligator arming it, and I was just hitting the front of wasn't even getting it on the front of the board. It was awful. It's like it just gets in your head, and as much as you try to fix it, you can't. And this guy doesn't look like he has a real like a background of doing anything. So he's not going to get to bust the slump, right? Because they're just going to give up on this guy. It's not like they're like, well, he was good at one time in the majors.
No, he's a young star, Ron. No.
I thought what they were showing. I thought you were showing his career. I thought you were just showing what his career.
No, this was just the slump. No, Devers is a.
They were showing my
Devers is a young star player. So this is a problem. This isn't like, some guy that they just brought up from Pawtucket who can't fucking hit. This is a franchise cornerstone type player.
But this isn't like Ankiel or Sachs, right? Where they've got like a glitch in their system when they can't throw to home plate or throw to first. Like this feels like it's something else, right?
Yeah, I mean, hitting is a different animal than pitching. So I don't think that it's something that he won't be able to correct. Now, will he need a trip to the minors? Does he need to go and get out of the spotlight and take 2 or 3 weeks down in AAA to figure it out? Well, at some point, probably. If we're talking in a week and he's 1 for 30 this year with 23 strikeouts, at some point he's going to have to go somewhere and get straightened out. But I think, we forget sometimes how hard it is, how truly hard it is. It's easy for us armchair, analysts to sit back and say, oh my God, this guy or whatever. Look, at the highest level, so much of it is mental. Everybody in the major leagues has talent and skill. You don't get there by mistake. And once you're there, it's the psychological part of it sometimes that maybe we underestimate. Golf is the same way. How many times have we seen great golfers and then they just lose it and don't win a tournament for 5 years? Of Jordan Spieth, he had 3 majors by the time he was 22 or 23, and now we're going on. It's been getting close to 10 years since the kid won a major, and he's a young man in his early 30s, and who knows if he'll ever win another one. So it's a fine line at the top levels of athletics.
Yeah, you say athletics, but I think it's with everything. I mean, I remember back when I, first started after college in my career in sales, I was selling radio advertising, and you get a quota, and if you're not hitting your quota, you start to press and you just get in your own head and you can't even make any sales. And then there'd be other months where I had got my quota within 2 or 3 weeks of the month. And then I just start piling on and just making sale after sale after sale. So the more you press, man, at anything you do, the harder it is. And when things are going good, man, you're just free and easy. And you know that. But when you're pressing, you try to be free and easy, but you can't because you're worried about the next sale or the next at bat.
It's true.
It's awful.
It's true in everything. It's true in hosting this show. There are days where we're cruising, everything's clicking, and you just feel like we'll only have great shows ever again going forward, right? And then maybe, I trip over my tongue or I call Joe Theismann Joe Namath or something, and then all of a sudden you're like, I don't know. Like, this suddenly doesn't seem like it's so easy anymore. So that's true, Ron. I agree with you. One thing that is going to be easier, hopefully, in the NFL is measuring accurately whether a first down has been converted or not. Because, Ron, the NFL is going to put a rest to the chain gang. They're still going to be there in some sort of secondary capacity, but it's going to be automatic measurements going forward on close calls. This is one of the rules changes that is in the offing for 2025. Obviously, a lot of controversy around this with the Josh Allen, the Bills on third and fourth down at Arrowhead, particularly Allen, that maybe that was the tipping point that got us here. Obviously, they've been working on this technology for a while. They didn't just go out and invent it because Josh Allen didn't get the first down. What do you? Yeah, this was real. It was like the Pfizer virus, the Pfizer vaccine. They just went into the lab and said, "Look, can we put something in the football because this motherfucker was denied the first down?" What do you think, Ron? I suppose in this era that we live in with technology, it's probably just a common sense thing to do.
100%. Like if it can be 100% accurate, and that's, I'd love to see the technology on this because, depending on how you're holding the ball, I guess there'd have to be almost a chip or something that's covering the entire ball, not just the tips of the ball. It'd have to be every part of the ball would have to have some sort of a sensor. Otherwise, if it's just on the tips of the ball, if they have the ball straight up and down, well, the fat part of the ball might cross the line. So it'll be interesting when they release more information about the technology to see how it actually works.
I've always loved the chain gang, though.
Oh, old guys.
I also love the, it's just like, here we go. Critical moment in a huge game. Let's bring these motherfuckers with a chain in from the sideline, see what they think. Measure it out. It was always so much fun to, see them come up short, and then the guy's he's always like letting you know, it's just 4 inches or whatever, or
that's what she said.
9 inches, as I like to call it, Ron. But I've always thought it's a lot like this. The first base check swing or the third base check swing. Here's a tweet I think we have, which it always gets me, right? I've always enjoyed the check swing appeal to the base umpire. Well, Bill's 90 feet away. Let's see what he fucking thinks about it. Did he go around? Did he not go around? I don't know. Bill's down there, 90 feet away. I say he didn't. It's right up there with the chain gang for me. Nothing like that kind of precision, Ron.
Yeah, I wonder what's the point of even still having the chain gang if they're going to use this technology? Is it just ceremonial now?
Probably in case it malfunctions or something is all I can think of. They said they would be there in a secondary capacity. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, backup.
Human backup, I guess, just in case something goes wrong. We get a defective chip in a football or something, and we need to bring in Earl and Fred. So
it'd be kind of like if I keel over right now, you'll just kill my screen and bring Tim in. Boom. Seamless.
Yeah, Tim is my backup chain gang on this program. You're the precision chip, and Tim is like a guy with a cigarette and a chain who's going to come in and try to hold this fucking shit together. All right, let's talk about the Why Not tournament, shall we? Because it's taken us a minute to get here, but we are now at the Elite Eight, Ron. And let's begin by looking at the upset, the Cinderella story in the Elite Eight right now. And you can look right down in the bottom right quadrant of the bracket, and we'll make it easy for you. Airplane upsetting Coffee. Did that end up being 51-49, gents? There you go. 51-5. 48-5, 11,348 votes.
Well, this makes
Airplane has taken down a 2 seed.
Makes me happy.
Very deserved, in my opinion.
Coffee's so overrated.
I'm not a coffee achiever, okay? But Airplane is so good, even if you like coffee, unless you're just addicted to coffee, it says a lot about coffee, I guess, that it's this close, but you could certainly argue that Airplane is the best comedy of the 80s. And I'm not sure that it isn't. I think This Is Spinal Tap is up there high. Fast Times at Ridgemont High is in the conversation. Airplane could be the finest of the 80s comedies. And there are others.
Yeah, no argument for me, Ricky.
Yeah, well deserved is what I would say. So we turn our attention now to the entire Elite Eight. Let's go ahead and look at these matchups, preview them, and one of them is underway now, and we will look at Beer against 80s MTV, which tipped off this morning, and then later today we'll have the other game over there, which is Susanna Hoffs against A Good Night's Sleep. And it'll be interesting to see if Susanna Haas can take the momentum from beating 72 and Sunny. She's already taken down Perfect Weather. Can she take down A Good Night's Sleep? We're going to see how weary and tired Super 70 Sports Nation really is, because it's basically raw animal magnetism and some pretty good pop music against a recuperative night of sleep. What about the other matchup we've got here? Airplane with a chance to go to the Final Four as a 10 seed. Of course, the downside for Airplane here, as we discussed yesterday, is it's running into a very formidable opponent in the last day of school.
Yeah, last day of school is going to win easily.
Yeah.
Does last day of school have a chance to win this entire fucking thing?
No.
Yes.
No. Beer and Bacon are I think are destined for it here.
Nope. It absolutely has a chance to win it.
Wait, Rafi Devers maybe too much bacon, being called out for maybe being fat. Maybe that's part of the issue with the strikeouts.
Body shaming him. How about you don't body shame the man? Okay? John Kruk didn't have any. Babe Ruth didn't have any problems. Going after the man's waistline. You strike out a few times, and then the next thing is they're like, oh, well, I guess Rafael Devers has never had a salad. He's gonna get shamed like you shamed me on this program, Ronnie.
Yep.
My God, you leave the man's weight out of it. He's not hitting with his belly.
Didn't you have a tweet about Kruk and cholesterol?
Yeah, well, I believe I did.
Yes. It's a good one.
Yes. Bonds did it on steroids and Kruk did it naturally on cholesterol. Well, let's go ahead and get a look at the matchup that is underway, fellas, which is Beer against 80s MTV. Somebody is punching their ticket to the Final Four with this one. And, well, I believe that we have a pretty good idea of who it's going to be. I caught a peek at it.
I know who's going to win.
I would have voted for 80s MTV. I can't vote. When you create the poll, you can't vote. I would have to go in and vote with another account. And
get you a burner account.
I don't do that.
Would your girlfriend vote on this one?
My girlfriend, I think 100% would vote 80s MTV. She's not a beer drinker, so I think no brainer for her, 80s MTV. And it's a no-brainer for me, too.
Same.
80s MTV by many
As I said, I'll vote for anything.
This is where you lose the audience. We'll check the time spent viewing on the program and see how we drop off at the 31-minute mark.
People hate watch us.
I was more of a Friday Night Videos guy, honestly.
Ooh.
Remember Friday Night Videos?
That's... Friday Night Videos was
a little
fun,
more glamorous, a little more hip, a little more glamorous.
Thriller. Yeah. I remember the night that Thriller debuted. Yeah, it was a big deal. Appointment television, in fact.
They didn't have the great top text though. Well. There's nothing like the MTV text with the title, the name of the album, the name of the song, lower left, white font. Should dig some of that stuff. Yeah, label. Should dig some of that up. Yeah. We shall see. Coffee and turkey bacon for you bitches on Friday morning. I'm gonna get a double order of both for both of you.
And beer.
I will probably drink a beer. during the show on Friday. You know, that's one of those where like I'll have a handful of beers a year. That's an occasion that's worthy of having a beer.
Old style?
Or maybe I'll have an angry orchard.
I don't think
I don't know. Whatever.
Anymore.
Whatever you drink, folks, come on out. If you're in the Chicago area, if you're planning to go to the game, come by and see us at Roadhouse 66, 10 a.m. this Friday in Wrigleyville. Ronnie is in Chicago right now, ready for this. Tim will be in Chicago. I'm almost always in Chicago. So come on out, and if you're not planning to take the day off, be useless, call in sick, pretend that it's the old days and you're going to want to watch some Price is Right. We don't have Barker's Beauties, but come on out, hang with Ronnie t-shirts. When are you going to get the opportunity to do that again, for God's sake, is what I would say to our audience. We get some comments here on this beer versus 80s MTV.
We didn't hit it. We didn't see what the vote. We didn't see what the vote was.
It stopped the fight. You don't need to see it. It's a blood. Yeah, we can vote. Yeah. It's a bloodbath.
We're trying to.
I was trying to be nice.
Hold on to the drama.
I was trying to make you.
Can.
Yeah, I didn't want you two guys to feel how ridiculous your vote would be.
I mean, that's actually better than I would have thought. I mean, that's respectable against beer.
You know, 40% is pretty respectable.
Yeah. Against beer?
It is. Woody Johnson of the New York Jets commenting on the not great results that the Jets got in the NFL Players Association annual report card that each NFL franchise gets. They asked the team players how they rate team facilities, coaching staff, ownership, on down the line. There are a whole lot of different criteria that go into this. The Jets ranked 29th out of 32 this year, but perhaps more importantly here, and talking about Woody Johnson, they were the only team in the NFL whose players gave the ownership an F. So Woody Johnson, you would think, maybe mortified by this. You can see there were a couple of D-minuses, Carolina and Arizona. There were a couple of Ds. Robert Kraft getting a D. The Rooneys getting a D. Little surprising there, perhaps. Carolina and Arizona less so. But Woody Johnson, the only one to flunk completely. D's get degrees, is the old saying. You guys might remember that, but F's don't. But Woody Johnson, in talking to the Athletic Zach Rosenblatt, says, my first read is I think it's totally bogus. We want to get better every day in every category. I want to be number one in everything, says Woody Johnson. All of our people do. We want to be number one like we are in girls flag football. We're number 1 or 2 in the country in girls flag football. Look, not a thing in the world wrong with encouraging girls flag football. Probably not the number 1 priority that you want your owner to have if you're a player, Ron. But I guess Woody's looking for the positives wherever he can find them. I don't know, man. This is the guy whose teenage sons.
What's his name? Brick?
We've heard. Yes, it's like a bad Disney movie. My teenage dickhead sons are running the franchise.
Did the Steelers getting a D not stand out to you as odd? Like, I wouldn't have guessed the Steelers.
Well, Robert Kraft, for that matter.
The Patriots have had a couple bad years, but that's like, I totally get the Carolina and the Arizona one, but who would have thought that
you get one strip mall hand job and then just the respect just one time. You go to one seedy strip mall. You think nobody's gonna know. Next thing you know, you're getting a D on your report card. They forget about the 6 Lombardis. I don't know. That's not fair to Robert Kraft, is it?
sometimes you just leave me speechless.
When I first saw that quote from Woody, I had to make sure it wasn't an April Fool's joke.
I mean,
yeah,
you would think a guy named Woody Johnson would be
quote.
more likely to be at the strip club or at the strip mall. Woody Johnson, see what I did there?
Bill Parcells, Ron, guy who coached the Jets and the Patriots. Bill Parcells, honored with his induction into the Patriots Hall of Fame. Take a look at this. 2025 inductee. Bill Parcells. First playoff games that the New England Patriots ever won, I believe, were under Bill Parcells. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure that's right. He took them to Super Bowl 31 as well. We all remember the victories with the New York Giants in Super Bowl 21 and 25. Well, he took them to Super Bowl 31 where they lost to Brett Favre and the Green Bay Packers, which probably is still burning up some of the people who were commenting on our Brett Favre interview, Ron. Take that, you pussies. Favre won that one.
Isn't it weird, man?
But
I barely remember him coaching the Patriots.
Yeah, it was an ugly exit, too. It was an ugly exit, right? I think that's why a lot of people saying it's long overdue for Parcells. And look, forgive me for saying, but, Robert Kraft going a little soft in later in life here. Finding a soft spot for Parcells. It's true. They're burying the hatchet. This should have happened years ago.
Well, thank you, Tim. Well, listen, speaking of things that are soft, Tim, how about the defense in the NBA? I was talking to Ron, when was it, last week on the show,
162
Ron?
points when the Pacers had 160.
Yeah, and I said, well, what's the big fucking deal? Somebody's putting up 140 or more in the NBA literally every night. You look at the scores, 140, 130, 138, 127. What happened to defense? I mean, it's not exactly the Pat Riley New York Knicks era of the NBA anymore, but there were some incredible individual performances last night, as well as an incredible team performance. Let's start with the team performance. The Milwaukee Bucks last night, fellas, put up the highest shooting percentage for a game that we have seen in the NBA since the 1998-99 season. And it's also the 9th highest field goal percentage in a game in the entire history of the league. The Bucks shot 68.9% last night, going 51 of 74 from the field. And I believe they were 17 of 29 from three-point range. That's the thing that's impressive, is that any team could set a record for highest field goal percentage in a game when every team is taking somewhere in the range of, a third or more of their shots coming from beyond the arc.
Dude, that's 59%. That's 59%.
Yeah, they shot 69% as a team while taking almost 33 pointers. Yeah. So that's crazy stuff. Yeah. So you got that. Steph Curry last night dropped 12 three-pointers on the Memphis Grizzlies and scored 52 points. I thought it was going to be a pretty safe call that was going to be the greatest individual performance in the league last night. It was not. It was not, however, because Nikola Jokic put up 61 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists last night in a double overtime thriller. It is only the third 60-point triple-double in the history of the league. The other two who have done it, James Harden and Luka. 61, 10, and 10. Andy hit 6 three-pointers. Look, nothing against Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. Incredible player. His team's having an incredible year. If he wins the MVP, and he probably will, if I'm reading the tea leaves correctly, It's not going to be an injustice. But there ain't a better basketball player in the world than Nikola Jokic. There just isn't.
Yeah, this is
who does this?
Jokic doesn't get it.
This is the kind of shit that we read about.
Fatigue if he doesn't get it.
Oscar Robertson and Chamberlain and all of those guys. He is doing insane things. That pass that he had the other night, Ron. Mm-hmm. Remember, I sent you the clip from the pass. I mean, he's a wizard. He passes he passes like Magic Johnson, dude. He shoots 3-pointers at a 42% success rate. He's shooting like Larry Bird. He's passing like Magic Johnson.
One-handed 3-pointer that he made from like 3/4 court at the end of one of the quarters.
He's an insane talent. I'm here to tell you, and I know people say, well, what about his defense or whatever? Look, he is on the borderline of being a top 10 player all time for me.
Hey, OutKick fans on YouTube, if you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button and make your way over to OutKick.com where you can watch the full episode.